Mick Lynch has been answering questions from MPs on the Transport Select Committee. It got a bit spicy, as you'd expect. This is an exchange between Lynch and Tory MP Greg Smith.
I understand the perspective you're coming from, but surely you must agree that by making the railway uncertain in its operation from the eyes of the consumer, the people who pay a lot of money.
You're talking about when we're on strike and when we're not on strike?
When you're on strike.
What about the days when we're not on strike, when it's absolutely useless as well?
That's a whole other evidence session.
No, it's not. So since the timetable change that came a couple of years ago, the whole thing's been a disaster.
The question is, you must accept that people are being driven away from the railway because of the uncertainty of knowing whether it's running, because whether it's on strike or not, people are going back to their cars, they are going to coaches, they are just not travelling. We've seen the evidence from UK hospitality that the hospitality sector took an absolute bath in December when they're meant to, because people couldn't get into predominantly London.
It's not a question, is it? But I think it's your government's fault, is my answer when you get there.
Driving people away from the railway?
No, you are. Your government.
What about the days when we're not on strike? The rail service is a nightmare then? Well, that's a whole other evidence session. It's not exactly a vote of confidence from a Conservative MP. And it's not surprising he didn't want to debate Lynch on the details. Now, this is Guardian analysis of the percentage of trains which were cancelled in 2022 from various key stations. Now, it's important that this is trains which were cancelled, not delayed. So in 2022, from Manchester Oxford Road, key, really important station, 11% of trains were cancelled. 1 in 10 trains were cancelled. It's also above 10% at Preston, Huddersfield, just below 10% at Manchester Piccadilly. This is a disaster. How are people supposed to rely on train services if there's a 1 in 10 chance that the train they were going to catch is going to be cancelled? And it's also important to note that what counts as a cancelled train here, it has to have been cancelled on that day. So obviously when you have a rail strike, lots of trains are cancelled, but a rail strike, you have a lot of notice. We tend to all know that the trains are going to be cancelled that day. So only included here are when there was a train which was supposed to arrive, but then on the day it's cancelled. So this cannot really include cancellations because of rail strikes. So you're getting 1 in 10 trains from Manchester Oxford Road, 1 in 10 from Preston, 1 in 10 from Huddersfield being cancelled, and that has nothing to do with rail strikes.
This idea that the strike is like anti-public or anti-consumer is such a sinister Tory ploy. We heard it again. We heard it in that previous segment with Carol Malone calling the strikes in the healthcare system archaic, i.e., something that should be consigned to history. That strikes go against the interests of the quote-unquote public, who are artificially separated from the workers. And all I can say is thank God for the strike. Thank God that workers have a tool that they can leverage in order to force better conditions, not just for themselves as workers, but also for us as people who use the services that they work in. As someone who wants to live in a society where I can expect that a train is going to come on time, or I can expect that it's not going to be cancelled, or I can expect that, I'm not going to be on a 4-hour train with standing room only because it was overbooked or because another train before it was cancelled. As someone who wants to know that if I call an ambulance in, a normal time, that ambulance will be able to come in a reasonable time frame, and that there will be reasonable infrastructure and provisions that I will be taken care of. As someone who wants to be able to reliably use, the transport system and the healthcare system, thank God that the people who actually know what needs to happen in order to make it work, thank God that they actually have a tool that they can use to force change. Because if they win, we all win. If they win, we have a better NHS. If they win, we have a better railway service. Because if we didn't have that tool, if workers didn't have that leveraging point, what would we be doing right now? We all know that the NHS is not fit for purpose. We all know that the railway system is not fit for purpose. What tool would we actually have to make it better as consumers or quote unquote the public to actually bring about the change that we need? We've done the petitions, we've done the article writing, we've done the protesting. It doesn't work in the way that the expression of power, the reclamation of power, that the strike can work. And so thank God for the strike. It's our only hope.